Everything we do is going to be about winning. Okay, we're going to learn to do things the right way, and that's the only way we're going to do them. Because if it doesn't help us, we're not doing it, man. That's just as simple as it gets. Win the Super Bowl.
That's
I
good.
mean it too. You know, one of the things that the only reason you become a head coach in this league, in my opinion, is to win. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you do it for any other reason, you're wrong.
Hey football fans, welcome to the Washington Command Center. So I've made my feelings known that I think Washington should very much be in the trade back business this draft. Because just like Rico at Street Scores said, and I fully agree, this might be the deepest draft class we've ever seen. Because of the COVID situation, players staying an extra year, coming out with the class that would normally come out, there's a lot of talent, and I think we need to take full advantage of that by trading back and getting more picks so we can, have more shots at getting more players. Now, even more than the pushback that I'm getting from people that say, no, we should stay at 11 and take this player or this position, I'm running into people that think the idea of us being able to find a trade partner is somehow a massive long shot, and that nobody's going to be willing to move up in this week of a quarterback class. But today I'm going to break down what I think are some realistic trade possibilities, and I'm not going to go through the PFF mock draft simulator where I could just, load up whatever massive trade gets me to that perfect trade acceptance point of 69% likely and kind of gaming the system. I'm going to drop some trade scenarios that I think are very realistic and great moves for us, but I'm going to be using the draft trade value calculator that works from the tried and true draft pick value formula. And along with that, I'm going to give you a mock draft based off how the board fell on all around great NFL content creator and prospect evaluator Broshmo's latest mock round, 7 round mock. I'm going to use his mock draft as the board, and I'm going to use the picks we got, and I'm going to show you how we can go full Belichick and start out winning the draft in this new era of Washington football, an era where this proud franchise can once again command respect. And what better way to kick off this new era than subscribing here to the Washington Command Center, so you can find your way back to some of the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Washington Commanders. While you're at it, hit that like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, so you get the idea. Washington needs to trade back for real. And I don't think it's going to be as hard as people think. First I'm going to go through all the trades before I gather the picks, and then I'm going to go and give you guys the mock draft after that, after I've made all the trades and told you what picks we're going to get. Okay? All right. First off, I think pick 11 is going to be a prime trade back spot for almost any team wanting to come up. Mainly because it's a move that can be made without needing a future first rounder involved. And with the quarterback situation driving down the overall value of the class, that gives future picks more value comparatively than they normally have. And, teams are would rather trade away picks this year than future picks because of how the value is kind of viewed, which is great for us because we need picks this year. We're not really worried about picks next year. So that's kind of why we're at a great price with a great location at pick 11. It's like unicorn real estate. So, the first of the obvious trades and why people, think it's a long shot is Malik Willis making it to 11, and that opens doors for trades with the Saints, Steelers, and possibly the Lions. And I think that situation is more likely than people think. I think Malik Willis quite possibly could make it to us. But it's still not the easy, realistic, bankable trade partner scenario I think we have. I don't think it's the most in stone trade option we have. There's also Buffalo and Arizona that could look to, make a jump up for a sliding edge rusher. With the way Kayvon Thibodeau is getting talked about, maybe he slides all the way to 11. Then that opens up everybody wanting to trade up with us. But, or a corner. Those guys Arizona could definitely be looking for a corner, maybe wanting to trade up to get, if Stingley's still there. Which, they might not be as likely, but I think they are still very possible. But the two partners I think that are locks, as long as we want them, like these guys will be willing to trade with us, I almost guarantee it. They both need to get a high impact wide receiver so they can try to mitigate the hole left when they both traded one of the best wide receivers in the NFL away. And they've both got 2 late first round picks, and they both got 2 second round picks. And we could see them competing against each other. Green Bay and Kansas City. They could be competing against each other for our pick. To come up there and get the pick of the litter at wide receiver. Now, what sounds like the craziest trade and dream scenario for us would be trading back with Green Bay and getting 22 and 28. But that really doesn't sound crazy when you factor in, that competition with Kansas City. They're going to be bidding against each other. And when I'm using the PFM mock draft simulator, I actually get that offer from Green Bay fairly often. Like, I get my little trade offers, and Green Bay offering 22 and 28 for 11 happens all the time. Now, that might not mean much, but it makes it seem a little less crazy when a simulation is offering it, pretty regularly. And I think they'll for sure be looking to come up. And I think Ron already has this in his mind. And it's a big part of why he's been so open with how he feels about Chris Olave. So, with them already competing against each other for our pick, Ron's also built in a little bit of extra make me pass on my guy value, which is a great move. So don't buy into Ron fawning over a guy as a fan base, please. A wise man once said, it's lion season. But what I think might be the easiest, most likely trade back, and according to the draft calculator, the draft value trade calculator is trading 11 back to Kansas City for 29 and 30, because that is a dead even trade according to the calculator. Now, like I said, that could very easily spark that dream scenario with Green Bay, but here for the mock purposes and to keep it completely realistic so people aren't like, there's no way Green Bay is going to give up 22 and 28. We're going to go with 29 and 30 from Kansas City because value-wise it is perfectly even. So from there, trying to make those Belichick moves. Also working off Broshmo's full 7-round mock. Go check it out. He has Atlanta going after a quarterback in the second round, grabbing Desmond Ridder. And that's very realistic. Somebody is going to want, to grab a quarterback somewhere in the second round. But if they're going to want a quarterback anyway, that gives us another chance to add picks, because any team thinking about adding a quarterback is going to possibly would love to trade back in the first to get that fifth year option. So I'm going with Atlanta here in the trade back. I'm sending them 29 and 47 for their 43rd, 58, 74, and 14, which might sound like a haul. It's just us getting 2 extra picks. But coming up from our 47 that we traded, we swapped with the Colts, coming back up to around our original pick. A little bit in front of our original pick, I think. Or a pick behind it, I'm not sure. But according to the calculator, that's as even as it gets. They end up with minus 0.056 value, but that's as close as I've been able to get with this calculator, period. But more importantly, and the biggest selling point, is Atlanta or any team that wants to make that trade. At that point, with the way Broshmo's board fell, they get not only Ritter, but to choose between Howell and Ritter. And most importantly, they get that 5th year option. And for what, is widely viewed as developmental quarterbacks, that's huge. So then we also have, we have picks 113 and 114, side by side. So I'm going to use the trade back calculator there and move on from 113 to Carolina for 144, 149, and 243. The Panthers end up with plus 1.64% value. So they got a good deal. But that's really close. And even for us, but it's enough boost for them to jump up to the beginning of day 3, so they could, and they have 2 picks in the 4th round, so they'll have an extra pick, an earlier pick to get up there, because they need to add quality pieces to their offensive line. They'll still be able to find guys that could possibly help out by coming up into the very beginning of day 3 like that. So that's our 3rd trade. That's pretty much all I'm going to go for there. So with that, we're all the way back starting out at pick 30, but I think that's fine for us. And we pick up we have 30, 43, 58, 74, 114, 149, 189, 230, 239, and 243. So in three trades gives us 10 lottery picks in a draft class, packed with likely winners, in my opinion. So let's look at what I was able to do working off of Broshmo's board here and kicking it off at pick 30 for our first pick here. Surprise, surprise, at 30, Leo Chenal is still on the board, and I take him. And I'm going to do that every time. My favorite player in the draft, gives us elite potential, as a Mike. And, I mean, that's elite. He put out elite production. He's got elite athleticism. I mean, I got other videos talking about this guy until I'm blue in the face. So let's move on to the other guys. Plus, Ron is a linebacker. This team's identity is on defense. He's got to get the quarterback of the defense. We got our actual quarterback. Now, I mean, Ron looked at, that Colts team from last year to check out Wentz. And he saw their defense crumble also late in the season. And I'm sure he's like, I'm going to make sure that's not us. So Ron, don't be surprised if Ron does take a linebacker in the first. But back to 43 here. Another surprise. Jalen Petre's on the board. I'm going to do this every time, guys. This shows how we can kind of move around and still land those perfect players. And at least with how, Broshmo's viewing it, we can still end up with these guys that I think we really need. And back at 58, here's a new one for you guys. Taking wide receiver Alec Pierce. Now I'm about to do a video about wide receivers outside of the second round, where I talk about him and, how we could take him after the second. But I'm going to go ahead and take him in the second here. He's big, long, fast, with insane ability to cut on a dime out of his breaks. And, I mean, it might sound like hyperbole or just maybe a lazy comparison because, they're both white guys, but he has the potential to be a faster Cooper Kupp. And I think that comes down just to how he gets out of his breaks and how he runs his routes. But I think, it's crazy to compare him to the best wide receiver that was in the NFL last year, but hey, he could be that. He's definitely got the athletic ability over Kupp a little bit. So back at 74, another name you guys are used to hearing me talk about. Free safety Nick Cross. Athletic freak. Strong safety size with free safety range. Local guy. Gotta love it. Then back at 114, Kyrie Castro-Fields, cornerback. Another guy I've talked about a lot. Local guy. Speed. Good zone coverage corner. That's the most important part. That Ron Rivera mid-round cornerback gem kind. Then back at 144, Bo Melton from Rutgers, wide receiver. You're going to hear a lot more about this guy and Pierce in my upcoming video about wide receiver prospects outside of the first two rounds. But Hog Haven and Brett Coleman are, just as big fans of this guy as I am. And he's drawing comparisons to Terry. So at 144, that's a massive steal. Bo Melton from Rutgers. Him and Alec Pierce, what's the point of taking a wide receiver in the first two rounds? Well, I took Pierce in the second round here. But, what's the point in taking a first round wide receiver when you can get guys like that all through the draft? Then back at 149, tight end, Chiga Conquo. This is a Terp that lit up the combine. Little undersized at tight end at 6'3", 240. But we need a receiving threat at tight end, with Bates and even Reyes already near, the top of the NFL as blockers at the position. We just need a receiving threat. So we get the speediest tight end at the combine. He's a monster after the catch. He's got vision like a running back, and they gave him carries out of the backfield too. Between the tackles, sweeps, screens. He's smooth in his routes. Just lots of traits that'll let him make a big impact as a receiving threat right out the gate. And after that, 189, which this might be early for some people for this prospect, but not after he raided, University of Washington's Pro Day and stole the show. Here at 189, wide receiver Tanner Connor. Dude's a beast of a prospect. 6'3", 230 pounds, 4'3", 740, 39.5-inch vert, state champion hurdler, Bruce Feldman's Freaks List guy, and he was a pretty good deep threat at Idaho State. I love this guy during the Shrine Bowl process and the game. I'll take Pierce, Melton, and Connor over any first-round wide receiver every day of the week. It's just a better use of resources. 3 for way less than the price of 1, and just all of them have freaky ability or massively underrated skills. So getting down here into the 7th round, pick 230. Edge defender, edge rusher, Ali Fayed, who showed up the Shrine Bowl and looked like a 10-year vet with his bag of pass rush moves. Like this guy looked like a pro. He had spin moves, he had fakes. Like, this dude was so legit with his pass rush moves. Now, he's a dude with a ton of potential, and at the very least, he could share his bag of tricks, with Chase and Montez. Like, he could teach them some things, because this dude he just looks so legit. So, let's bring him in there, help out the rotation at edge. We had some injuries last year and really needed it. Looked kind of soft there. Let's bring him in. Excuse me. Then at 239, running back, Xander Horvath. Bro doesn't have him on his board, but this dude's a beast, and I've talked about him time after time. So I'm just going to quote PFN's draft report. And I quote, when Purdue's running back, Xander Horvath, broke his fibula in the 49-0 win over UConn earlier this season, college football fans and NFL draft analysts were deprived the opportunity to further study a rare creature in his natural habitat. Horvath plays the game with a physicality that you'd expect from him, a 6'3", 230-pound running back. Yet he combines that with the physicality. He combines that physicality with the athleticism associated with smaller framed athletes. The Purdue running back also has the hands of a wide receiver while possessing the blocking ability that most playmakers can only dream of. At the time of his injury, Horvath averaged 4.6 yards per carry and 9 yards per reception for his career. While he has played exclusively as a running back for the Boilermakers, his size and skill set would see him effortlessly transition to a fullback in the NFL like former Purdue Boilermaker running back Mike Allstott did for Tampa Bay. So they're comparing this guy to Allstott. As a result, Horvath should be considered one of the top fullbacks in the 2022 NFL Draft. For me, there isn't a better prospect at the position right now, despite the injury. That was Oliver Hodgkinson from PFN. And Horvath did end up returning. He was only out for 6 games with that broken fibula. And he did play, and he went right back to his old self, hurdling dudes, running dudes over for big gains. Horvath is a monster. We need to get this guy. I don't think he's a fullback in the NFL. I think he's just a monster running back. But that leaves us with one last pick, 249, offensive tackle, Bamlissini, 6'8", 333 pounds. He's got 36-inch arms, all the tools to be an elite franchise left tackle. He's just raw, only being in this country a few years, he's already showed great promise. And he's the kind of lump of clay that John Matsko could easily turn into, not just a starter. Like, this is a guy that could be our future, our very own Jordan Mailata, And I think he's available for the international pathway player roster spot too. Like, I think if we take this guy, we get that extra roster spot for the offseason. And Ron loves those international pathway guys. He just picked F.A. Obata back up, who he had in Carolina, who was an international pathway guy. And we've got David Bada, Samus Reyes. We seem to be getting one every year. Bam would be the perfect guy, next in line. And he could possibly develop into Charles Leonard's successor. Like, this guy has all the tools to be a franchise left tackle. But there you have it. There's the mock draft after those realistic trade backs picking up those picks. 3 very realistic draft trades that completely changed the complexion of this draft for us. And it puts us in prime position to bring, talent in, for many positions of need. And, some people might look at that and say, what about interior defensive line? But I think David Bada and Bunmi Ratimi, they've shown that they were solid rotational pieces. But with this draft, the way it is, I think, some of those Shrine Bowl guys, people have getting drafted late, like Marquand McCall, Bully Ball McCall, and Thomas Booker, they might end up undrafted. Some people have them, being late rounders, but I think they might go undrafted with the way how talented this draft is. They might get pushed completely off the board. So we could be able to snatch guys like that if they go undrafted. Outside of them, local guys like Jordan Williams from Clemson, who transferred back home to Virginia Tech this year. He's a little short, but he's a fire plug. And Cincinnati Bearcat from Danville, Virginia, Curtis Brooks is another guy we could bring in. Or, another Alabama guy like LeBron Ray, who's probably going to go undrafted, and he'd at least give us, solid depth there. But, yeah, man, there's the mock draft. Leo Chenal, Jalen Petrie, Alec Pierce, Nick Cross, Tariq Castro-Fields, Bo Melton, Chigakonkwo, Tanner Connor, Ali Fayed, Xander Horvath, Bamlissini. Amazing. And I think it's something we could do, guys. But yeah, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can find your way back to the Washington Command Center for some of the most opinionated, ice cold, calculated takes on all things Commander football. And if you made it this far, I love y'all. Peace.